Across the lower 48 states, whitetails live in a variety of habitats and climates. Creatures of the edge, deer thrive in areas where agricultural fields border dense woods and other thick cover. Whitetails can withstand extreme cold and intense heat. They are just as much at home in the frigid wilderness of northern Maine as they are in the arid cactus and brush country of South Texas. Deer can satisfy their needs for food and living space in virtually any region of the United States, from the fertile Midwestern Corn Belt to the more wooded and densely populated Northeast. No other large hoofed mammal can live so close to humans. It is the essence of white-tailed deer. Deer herds flourish in areas altered by people. Newly planted lawns and other ornamental landscaping make perfect places for these resourceful animals to feed. Tender clover, grasses, and forbs have tempted a group of hungry does to graze near a suburban home. This young buck devours succulent lettuce, much to the dismay of a backyard gardener. Deer also like to browse on the delicate buds and flowers of commercial fruit trees and agricultural crops. Their voracious appetite can devastate a grower's profits. In areas that have been recently logged, sunlight helps regenerate young trees and bushes to just the right height for deer. Sumac leaves are among the hundreds of wild plant species they consume. An average-sized whitetail eats several pounds of forage per day, often selecting only the choice new growth on the woody vegetation it favors. Deer also seek out fruits and nuts when they become available. Oak acorns are one of the whitetail's preferred foods in autumn. These high-calorie nuts help build a fat reserve for winter. Northern deer go out of their way to locate juicy apples, either from cultivated or wild trees. Without the advantage of upper front teeth, deer have a difficult time eating certain foods. The whitetail's diverse diet enables these adaptable creatures to live in a wide array of geographical locations. Some 38 subspecies of white-tailed deer range from southern Canada to South America. Regardless of differences in size and weight, they are all the same species, Odocoleus virginianus. The larger-bodied deer with darker coats live in the northern forests of New England, southern Canada, and the upper Midwest. In early autumn, an exceptional prime-age buck might tip the scales at more than 300 pounds, though most weigh considerably less. This yearling buck might not reach half the size of his older companion. Adult males also weigh about 30 to 40% more than females of the same age. Generally, the farther south, the smaller the deer's body size. An adult buck living on the Texas plains seldom weighs more than 125 pounds, but often carries an impressive rack. The southern subspecies of whitetails are usually lighter in color, which helps reflect the hot sunlight. Though normally found in seasonal shades of brown, deer coats can vary from white to almost black. This partially white doe, called a piebald, carries a recessive gene that occurs in less than 1% of the deer population. First discovered on a military depot in upstate New York, these large white deer have brown eyes and are not true albinos. Their unique coat color seems to serve no survival purpose and remains a mystery to wildlife biologists. A deer's raised white tail is its most familiar physical characteristic. This signature trait gives a visual warning to others nearby. When frightened, whitetails can sprint up to 40 miles per hour through the broken fields and thick wooded terrain they call home. Deer have powerful legs that can easily propel them over most obstacles. They have been observed leaping over fences 8 feet high. Whitetails can display quick bursts of speed, but they are not known for great endurance. Shy and reclusive, a deer often prefers to hide or sneak away from its enemies. Almost ghost-like, a wise old buck can melt into thick cover and let a hunter pass harmlessly by. Though deer have poor color vision, very little movement escapes them. Their primary defense, however, is a phenomenal sense of smell. A deer's nose can detect odors from considerable distances when the wind and terrain are favorable. Hearing is thought to be as good as or better than a human's. The eastern coyote occasionally preys on adult deer, but poses a more serious threat to fawns and yearlings. To avoid human hunters, whitetails often move into open feeding areas under the cover of darkness. Older, experienced bucks develop an increasing wariness with each passing year. Excellent nocturnal eyesight gives deer an edge as a prey species. A highly reflective layer behind the retina called a tapetum intensifies the faint rays of a full moon. Whitetails are one of the most adaptable large grazing animals on Earth. They are the products of countless generations of evolutionary fine-tuning. White-tailed deer can trace their ancestry back to the Middle Miocene period, more than 15 million years ago. Over eons, whitetails survived extreme climatic changes, fierce predators, and the coming of modern man. In pre-colonial times, deer flourished along the edges of vast primeval forests, lakes, and other natural openings. Where the dark woodlands bordered on sunlit areas, whitetails found an abundance of lush vegetation to browse on. This virgin paradise, teeming with deer and other wildlife, would change forever when European explorers discovered the New World. Market hunters came to collect valuable buckskin and venison, and whitetails were soon reduced to a commodity. Homesteaders and other backwoodsmen shot deer year-round to put fresh meat on the dinner table. Game laws were either non-existent or poorly enforced. By the late 1800s, thousands of deer were routinely slaughtered for meat markets in Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, and Boston. The arrogance of this overharvesting would be devastating. And by the turn of the 20th century, deer were nearly wiped out across much of their original range. Concerned sportsmen and conservationists feared whitetails would vanish from the landscape. Their pleas reached state and federal game departments. In the early 1900s, new hunting regulations set strict seasonal limits. The illegal interstate trade in hides and venison was banned. Ironically, the fees from hunting licenses would help fund restocking and protection programs. The stage was now set for the whitetail's return. It is late May in the northern mountains and the fawning season has just begun. The whitetail's exceptional reproductive rate is yet another reason for their success as a species. A pregnant doe has separated from her group and will give birth alone in an isolated tract of woods. Each spring, she returns to this area to bear fawns. A doe can deliver her new fawn standing up or lying down. Labor can be over in a few minutes, or it can last up to an hour. As the fawn emerges, the mother doe removes the fetal membrane. This also helps minimize scent around the birth site. The doe finishes cleaning her new fawn on the ground. Grooming also forms a strong bond between mother and offspring. A healthy adult doe living on good range usually gives birth to twins and occasionally to triplets. Nursing begins soon after delivery, often with the doe still lying down. New mothers and those living in poor habitat usually give birth to a single fawn. The doe licks her offspring to stimulate sucking and bowel movements. A fawn weighs from 4 to 8 pounds at birth. It grows rapidly on a milk diet, much richer in fats and nutrients than cow's milk. Its weight will double in 2 weeks and triple by month's end. A young whitetail inherits its species' skill in hiding. After nursing, a fawn beds down and patiently waits for its mother to return. Twins separate and instinctively find their own bedding areas. This strategy helps ensure the survival of one fawn if a predator wanders into their area. A mother doe is never far away, always aware that she and her fawns may not be alone. Newborn deer give off very little scent, for their only protection at this age is to lie motionless. Their camouflage coats contain more than 300 spots to help them blend with sun-dappled patterns on the forest floor. It is during this period that fawns are most vulnerable to predators like black bears, bobcats, coyotes, and even domestic dogs. A fawn is so adept at concealment that a keen-nosed bear can walk within several feet and not detect it. When solitude returns to the woods, the doe calls her fawns to nurse. During their first month of life, these twins will nurse 3 to 4 times per day, drinking about 8 ounces per feeding. Does begin the gradual weaning process by stepping away while the fawns are still nursing. This fawn samples some tender ash leaves. By summer's end, it will be completely weaned and consuming a diet similar to adult deer. High-protein mushrooms are a delicacy on the menu. Deer seem to know which ones to eat and which ones to avoid. Raising a family puts added demands on a mother doe. She must eat quality forage to supply her offspring with milk. A month-old fawn spends less time alone and more time with its sibling. Mutual grooming is common behavior in deer of all ages. Young whitetails like to play. They are surprisingly fast and agile. In early summer, does guide their fawns to favorite drinking and feeding areas. Though deer behavior is primarily driven by instincts, they do have the capacity to learn. It is late summer. The spots on fawns are beginning to fade, and by season's end, these twins will look like miniature copies of their mother. Adult males have no family responsibility and prefer the company of their own kind. They usually occupy a different area than does, though some habitat is shared by both sexes. Water is as essential as food in a whitetail's home range. How much water a deer drinks depends on the season and the amount of moisture in its diet. These bucks have spent the summer leisurely adding body fat and growing antlers. Unlike horns, which are retained for life, antlers are grown and shed each year. Through a mysterious process called photoperiodism, a deer's antlers, coat, and breeding cycle are all governed by the seasonal changes in daylight. The increasing sunlight in early spring stimulates the release of hormones that activate antler growth in males. This older buck is also growing a thin summer coat. Sheathed in a velvet-like skin, new antlers develop rapidly on a diet rich in calcium, phosphorus, and protein. Antlers are one of the fastest growing tissues in the animal world. Developing slowly at first, the rate of growth accelerates to several inches per week by midsummer. In late August, a buck's antlers attain their final dimensions. Age, diet, and genetics play a vital role in their shape, size, and number of points. A buck usually grows his finest rack when he reaches his prime of 5 or 6 years old. If he lives beyond 10 years, his antlers will gradually decline. The diminishing daylight in early September triggers another release of hormones in bucks. This cuts the blood supply to their antlers, and the velvet slowly dies and peels. By thrashing small bushes and trees, this buck removes the annoying strips of skin. And by nightfall, only a few dried pieces of velvet remain. The final stage of the antler metamorphosis is complete. A mature buck's antlers are his most distinctive trait. These sharp, bone-like appendages probably evolved as weapons and serve as signs of his superior genetics to others in his domain. For most of the year, older males lead quiet lives. But now, rising hormone levels slowly change their disposition. These bucks test their strength and endurance in a friendly sparring match. This helps establish a social hierarchy among rival males. The preliminary stages of the whitetail rut begin in early autumn. It is a time when adult bucks increase their daily movement and mark their territory. A dominant buck deposits saliva, along with scent from glands near his eyes and forehead on low-hanging branches. During this unique behavior, called scraping, he usually paws the ground and urinates before leaving. The social odors left at scrapes probably give prospective females an indicator of a buck's readiness to breed, and to competitive males, a clue to his dominance. More than one buck will use the same scrape. At least 6 different males were observed marking the branch at this apple tree. A buck revisits favorite scrapes, usually those in areas of high deer activity. He sometimes rubs his tarsal glands when urinating on these pawed-up areas. This massive 12-pointer vigorously removes bark from a young sapling with the base of his antlers. He also deposits scent from his forehead gland. A dominant buck can make hundreds of rubs in a single season. He marks trees along deer trails and near feeding and bedding areas. As the rut progresses, competition for mating rights begins to intensify. This large 8-pointer aggressively thrashes a tree in the presence of a potential adversary. A buck's antagonistic snort wheeze lets others know of his intentions. Belligerent pawing is another intimidating gesture. Though tensions are rising, a fight can still be avoided if a rival assumes a submissive role. Guided by his acute sense of smell, an amorous buck grunts on the trail of a prospective mate. This doe is about to enter her 24-hour estrus or heat cycle. Another large male has also followed her trail. When two dominant bucks vie for a doe in heat, an intense battle ensues. Serious injuries or even death can and do occur, but usually the stronger deer prevails and the fight ends quickly. The loser slowly retreats. The diminishing daylight in late autumn sets the whitetail's biological clock for the optimum time to breed. In northern regions, the rut peaks in mid-November, and most females are bred by month's end. Because a doe has a 200-day gestation period, she must mate in late fall, so her fawns will be born in the warm days of spring. The breeding season extends into January and February in southern regions. Now, with fewer receptive does, older males are more inclined to leave their normal home range of 1,000 to 2,000 acres in their search for female companionship. A dominant buck courts as many does as possible. It is nature's way of perpetuating his superior traits. An ardent male makes short dashes at any group of females that looks promising. By sniffing the ground where a doe urinated, he inhales scent molecules into a nasal opening in the roof of his mouth. This strange behavior, called flamen, primes males for mating. In the northern reaches of the whitetail's range, the rut winds down in mid-December. With testosterone levels slowly decreasing, these subordinate males once again engage in a friendly sparring match. Older dominant bucks spend more time eating and resting. Some have lost up to 25% of their body weight. This makes them more susceptible to disease and starvation in winter. Weather, as well as terrain, plays an important role in shaping an animal's physical traits and behavior. Deer that live in severe northern climates must adapt to the challenges of their environment. As winter sets in, whitetails migrate from exposed mountain slopes to thick stands of hemlocks and white cedar swamps. Some will travel up to 50 miles. Young deer learn the migration routes from their mothers and their mothers before them. Hundreds of whitetails yard up in stands of conifers. Here they are sheltered from the penetrating wind and deep snow. This unique behavior probably has existed since the days of the Great Ice Age. By mid-February, most older bucks have shed their antlers. Mysteriously, this loss comes at a time when their sharp-pointed racks could be useful as a defense against predators. A storehouse of precious minerals. Discarded antlers provide an irresistible treat for small mammals like this porcupine, and the fine rack that once adorned a proud buck slowly disappears. Because nutritious food is often scarce in winter, deer must lower their metabolism and eat what is available. Hemlock and white cedar are favored at this time of year. This hungry yearling devours an almost indigestible branch. Deer also browse on deciduous trees and bushes. A doe and her offspring feast on sumac berries, along with tender buds. Their winter diet also includes lichens and dried leaves. When faced with starvation, deer move closer to houses in search of food. Expensive trees and shrubs are often on the menu. This doe helps herself to seed and corn from a backyard bird feeder. The carrot on a snowman makes a lean but tasty meal. After eating, this doe will spend several hours re-chewing partially digested food, stored and fermented in her four-chambered stomach. The microbial process also serves as an internal furnace to help keep her warm. A northern deer's large body size is yet another adaptation for winter survival. Its greater internal volume makes it more heat efficient. A dense, double-layered winter coat with long, hollow hairs provides excellent insulation from the bitter cold. With little body heat escaping, snow can lie on a deer's back for hours without melting. Snowstorms in early March can deplete a deer's remaining fat reserves. The young and the weak are most vulnerable. During a long winter, up to 50% of last spring's fawns can perish. Those that are large and fit survive. It is a law of natural selection. The life of a whitetail is full of natural hazards. Though they have a potential lifespan of nearly 20 years, few deer ever reach half that age. On a frozen lake, a family of bald eagles has found a dead deer that may have fallen on the slippery ice. This is a choice prize for these majestic birds that usually feed on fish. For millennia, a whitetail's elusive and wary behavior was forged by a changing cast of predators, from saber-toothed tigers to wolves and mountain lions. Those that did not escape could not pass on their genes to future generations. Master deer hunters, a pack of voracious gray wolves, can gain a decided edge over their prey when running on top of a crusted snow. Sharp hooves penetrate the hard surface and slow down the normally swift deer. Large padded feet aid the wolf pack in their deadly pursuit. Weakened by a harsh winter, this young doe could not outrun these relentless predators. As cruel as it may seem, some deaths are necessary to regulate the population. Today, keystone predators like wolves and mountain lions have disappeared from most of the whitetail's range, and the land has been cut and divided into housing developments, farmlands, and smaller tracts of woods, creating ideal conditions for the dramatic increase in the white-tailed deer population. From a low point of only 500,000 at the turn of the 20th century, the number of deer has rebounded to more than 30 million across North America and is still growing. The posting of land to prohibit deer hunting has also contributed to the overpopulation problem by providing unneeded sanctuaries for expanding herds. Though hunting is the most common means of controlling deer, it may raise safety issues, especially in the suburbs. In these protected neighborhoods, whitetails have lost their fear of humans. They walk boldly in broad daylight through backyards and streets. As deer travel, they carry and disperse ticks that transmit Lyme disease and other illnesses. But new research suggests deer only serve as hosts and do not infect these parasites with the dangerous Lyme bacteria. The deer's appetite for ornamental trees and bushes often puts them at odds with homeowners. Even sturdy fencing and netting does not always discourage these hungry marauders. The beauty and grace of deer cannot be disputed, but patience wears thin when they are destroying your expensive landscaping or colliding with your vehicle. This cautious buck has learned to wait before crossing a busy highway, but he might not be so careful when chasing does in late autumn. The tendency to follow others motivates deer to cross blindly in front of oncoming traffic, often with tragic results. Approximately 500,000 deer die on America's roads each year. This costs billions of dollars in vehicle insurance claims and about 100 human deaths. New highway studies indicate recent increases in traffic volume and vehicle speed, especially through wooded areas, contribute to the growing number of accidents with deer. Fueled by an expanding human population, urban sprawl claims more than 2 million acres of prime wildlife habitat each year. If this current trend of building new houses and roads continues, more conflicts between deer and people are inevitable. White-tailed deer represent millions of years of evolutionary success. These adaptable creatures thrive in a changing world where others could not. And whatever the future holds for these resilient animals, you can be rest assured that deer will endure, for whitetails are survivors.